So here, from the internet, by a devotee called Alankara Das. Anyone know Alankara? He was one of the first devotees it transpires from this account. He says, I would like to contribute a brief story of my first contact with Brahmananda Das. Sometime around 1965 to 1966, I previously ran into Srila Prabhupada on 2nd Avenue, but had no idea of the importance of that chance encounter. The seed was planted. Shortly thereafter, I was living in an apartment on the 2nd floor of 26 2nd Avenue, and occasionally noticed the same Swami, Srila Prabhupada, walking through the back courtyard of our building. And there were Hare Krishna devotees downstairs from my apartment, chanting. But I did not attend any of the events. One day, a friend of mine, a psychedelic artist, banged on my door in the morning and insisted that I join him and some others for a free breakfast downstairs in the Hare Krishna temple. At that time, I was working for the New York Times and growing my career, not my devotional creeper. I was making very good money, but wanting to be part of the cultural movement of the time, I chose to live on the Lower East Side in this small, sunny apartment above what became the Hare Krishna temple. I voiced to my friend that I had a good income and didn't need a free breakfast. He insisted that I come downstairs with them, so I agreed. We descended the inside stairs, exited the building to the sidewalk, and entered the temple, that's the storefront, from the street door. Just inside the door stood a huge, loud devotee, yelling into a phone and demanding, "If you don't get this issue settled, we will contact our lawyer." Did you? Lawyer, so contact the lawyer. It doesn't sound a bit like Brahmananda, but it sounds better in American accent. If you don't settle this issue, if you don't get this issue settled, we will contact our lawyer. At this point, I must mention that my only contact with yoga had been through the uptown Swamis and their lily white followers. And I was not impressed, but I did receive some dietary and health benefits from the classes I took. Generally, however, the feigned sanctity and quietude really annoyed me, and being very practical by nature, I couldn't see the long-term results from such efforts. Spiritually, this posing seemed a dead end despite the fancy rhetoric. So, here I was, confronted by this huge behemoth, benign to look at, but loud, practical, and unself-conscious. I was sold. This might be the right yoga group for me. After this shocking introduction, I watched this large devotee gracefully and joyfully move around the small space, being kind, and serving breakfast prasadam to his guests. We were served mounds of halva, and I can say that was the best breakfast I have ever eaten. After a little time, the Swami, Srila Prabhupada, came in from the back courtyard, as was his pattern, and briefly worked the room. I fell in love, and that has continued to this moment. That wonderful, empowered, huge American devotee was Brahmananda Das. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Radha Krishna is a farmer, a pioneer of permaculture, a pioneer of putting back into the land what's so important.
I remember when the Sripati's story actually mentioned the airport. I thought, oh yes, airport. That's the story, Brahmananda, I remember. We used to love Brahmananda when he came to the temple every time from abroad because he gave such wonderful lectures. Everyone made sure they were always there. Nectar lectures that went on and on and on. And we had to go to the airport because this day Prabhupada was arriving. So we all got the 3 cars out. There was a Volvo, apparently. I remember the Ford, and there was a Morris Minor estate, which I'd come in, and I used to live in this car, and I brought it to the temple. So we all shot off to the airport, and I think they'd arranged a big car for Prabhupada to arrive, the chauffeur-driven car. And we all got to the airport, and there must have been about 80 devotees there, something like that. The whole waiting area was surrounded with devotees, and they were chanting and singing. and all the security personnel didn't know what was going on, and then Prabhupada came through from the airport arrivals area, and the whole mass of devotees went flat on the floor, and all the cordons of ropes and ashtrays, everything fell over, and the security didn't know, they thought a bomb had gone off. And it was like that, and we all got up, and then they started singing the Mara on Vishnu Padaya, and it was absolutely the most moving thing in my whole life to see that. And we got in the car, and Prabhupada got in the car, you couldn't see what was going on, there were so many people outside. And I got in the car, the little Morris Minor, and some devotees got in the back, and Brahmananda got into the Morris Minor on the passenger side, and the whole car went like this. So we drove off, and we couldn't keep up with the Prabhupada cortege. We were miles behind. And Brahmananda was going, "Why is this car going so slowly?" "Because you're sitting in it." I was a new bhakta. I didn't know what a pujari was, and we were just there doing it because we'd just arrived at the temple. So later on in that journey, someone brought out this big metal dish of prasad, and they said, "No, you've got to have prasad." So I was driving, so they sort of put it on the shoulder, and they said, "You have some of this." So I grabbed something, and everyone was taking some of this maha. So I just took it and was biting away and eating. Oh, this is hard. And what is this? And then about 3 minutes later, I realised I'd eaten a whole ginger root. So the car started going like this, and I was streaming with tears. They were going, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" And I didn't know what ginger root was. So I thought, if this is Maha Prasad, wow. That's it. That was my meeting with Brahmananda.
This is very topical, of course. Brahmananda passed away last weekend. So Brahmananda is about to be initiated. He writes, "For some reason, I invited my mother to attend." Anyone here invited their mother or father to attend their initiation?
Wedding,
Yeah. For some reason, I invited my mother to attend, which is very nice of her, I think, very nice. And after all, it was him and his brother. Him and his brother were both serious about Krishna consciousness. I was still in close contact with her, telling her everything I was doing. She was going through a difficult time after the divorce and needed some kind of counselling. So, in my neophyte enthusiasm, perhaps, I thought this might help her. She was always attuned to my spiritual sensitivities and would pay attention when I expressed the philosophy to her. So she came and sat on the folding chair in the cramped room. She sat above us because all of us, even the Swamiji, sat on the floor. That's how he arranged it. Swamiji performed the fire sacrifice right there on the floor too, which surprised me, making a fire on the roof of an apartment. Making a fire on the floor of an apartment. He made a little platform of 4 bricks on a mound of dirt, taken from the outside courtyard. There were 4 small bowls of powdered dye for colouring cloth, blue, yellow, red, and the white was full as earth. He then spread the powders on the mound, according to the Vedic tradition. From a burning candle he lit small splinters and then pieces of orange crate, and he poured ghee onto it to make a roaring fire, all the while reciting mantras. The 4 new initiates placed bananas at the base of the fire, coming forward and bowing down before Swamiji as he handed us our big red beads. Did anyone here ever get the big red beads initiation? No. Back then you had to make your own. You went to the hobby shop and you bought a set of whatever hobby beads you could get, and it was devotees had these big red beads before Tulsi was even heard of. At that time, he pronounced our names one by one. After I bowed down and got my beads, he said, "Now, to your mother, bow down to her. And whenever you see her, bow down." She was flattered, I'm sure. just prior to the initiation, Swamiji gently asked Brahmananda's mother to make a donation to his mission. She answered as only a Jewish mother can. I've already given you 2 sons. What more do you want?